What do you think would have happened if instead of Luffy and company going to Egghead, it was instead Kid and his crew? Now, as much as people like to hate on Kid, I think that this would be his arc. So let me give you a rundown of what I think would happen if Kid went to Egghead instead. So starting from the very beginning, it would be Kid rolling up and then he would get challenged by the mecha beast that came out the sea. Now, whereas the Straw Hats didn't attack these things just yet, they were like preparing to attack. I do think that Kid is more likely to swing at these things first, so he probably would do just that. But the difference is, and it's going to be a running thing for this video, is that Kid and his Devil Fruit abilities make this stuff very easy to deal with. Because all of these things are mechanical, at least 3 of them are finna get blown up because he's just gonna go repel and just send them flying somewhere. Lilith will probably come out to see what's happening and try to have the rest attack him or something. But the same way Shaka reached out to Lilith and said, hey, that's Nico Robin and Roronoa Zoro. Do not try them, they will kill you. I can see the exact same thing happening with Kid and Killer. Like Shaka will be like, hey, that's 3 billion berry bounty, Captain Kid. Leave him alone, all right? Not to mention his Devil Fruit makes it so that you literally can't swing at him, so just stop swinging at him. And then after that point, Kid and his crew will be able to touch down on the island. Pirates, and seeing where he is, Kid is 1000% running around just taking a bunch of tech. We saw on Wano when he was running toward the rooftop, he was just collecting metal from everybody that he ran past. But there is a caveat here because we don't know how Kid sees Vegapunk. We know he loves to create things, and I'm pretty sure he's heard of Vegapunk, so I wouldn't be surprised if, he wanted to meet one of them. Or maybe even Vegapunk might ask Kid, like, hey, can you get me out of this island? And I know, he didn't know Kid the way that he at least knew Luffy's father, but at the same time, he knows that CP0's on their way to kill him. He doesn't really have a choice. Now, as hot-headed as Kid is, he has shown on several occasions that he actually does think things through. Like when he told Caribou in the Udon prison mines that I was never going after Big Mom's head, I wounded one of her commanders, stole what I wanted, and then I left. He knows how to get in and get out. And also, if Killer has a good idea, he'll listen to Killer because Killer is usually pretty smart. Killer would probably let him know that there is something to gain by taking Vegapunk with him, so Kid would probably be like, alright, come on, we getting out of here, but I'm taking a lot of this stuff with me. Which, of course, Vegapunk can't do nothing about that. But then we know that CP0 would be able to use Esper's ability to just teleport to the island, so they would end up showing up, and I'm pretty sure Kid and his crew would have to fight them. And while no, Kid doesn't have as much of a vested interest in Vegapunk's survival as someone like Luffy would, with technological know-how and other things that Vegapunk could probably help him with, he would probably still see it as a great asset to have this guy on the ship, so I'm pretty sure he would help defend Vegapunk. And so with that, I'm pretty sure we would end up getting Awakened Lucci versus Kid. And some of y'all might think that there's not much Kid can do to Lucci's speed or whatever, but I'm here to tell you that that's not true. While Killer would more than likely be facing off and holding off Kaku for a time, Kid would be fighting Lucci with all the stuff that he just collected all around Egghead. And let me let you in on a little secret when it comes to Kid. I think it's very safe to say that Kid on Egghead is a Yonko level threat. Now, Kid haters already clicked off the video, but if you think about it for literally 2 seconds, it makes perfect sense. With just the scrap metal he was picking up on Wano, he was able to make creations that could break a powered up Big Mom's bones. Put together entire rail guns. What do you think he's about to create now that he's on Egghead with all this crazy tech? We got lightsabers, we got light technology that can interact with light, anti-gravity technology, like everything but works. And if he was already making mini Gundams out of scrap metal, making Zoids that can break Big Mom's bones out of scrap metal, I'm not gonna front on Egghead, he's probably making some Neon Genesis Evangelion a giant mech suit thing. He'll have things that are more advanced than what Mechamaru made to fight Mahito. Just outfitted with lasers, anti-gravity, you name it. So with the potential things that he can build on Egghead, he is smoking Lucci out of his boots. So Lucci doesn't get a break here. It's just that he would be fighting Kid on the worst possible terrain to fight Kid. Now, when it comes to Esper, y'all gotta keep in mind that even though it's a created being, there's still metallic components to it. The same way Kid was making pacifistas fly around with this Devil Fruit, he can do the exact same thing to the Seraphim. And y'all might think oh, but they're too strong to be dealt with that easily. Well, this is what a bad matchup looks like. I'm not saying he would destroy them all, but since they have metallic components to them, a simple repel will send them flying. And when they come back, just repel again. It's a low effort move, but it will always send them flying. But that's just dealing with Esper. Once these guys show up, the same way it happened with Luffy, because remember, Sentomaru is on Team Vegapunk. It's oh wait, we know CP0's here to kill him, so we're just gonna assist Kid and fighting against these other people. Only the same way Sentomaru got snuck by Lucci so they were able to take control of the Seraphim, that will not happen with Kid for one reason. And that reason is Kid's awakening, a sign. It does not matter how fast Lucci is, if I magnetize you to the floor, you're not going anywhere. I know as a fact, Lucci is not as strong as a powered up Big Mom. If Kid did this to her and she had to move the whole building in order to move, Lucci's just gonna be stuck. And while stuck, Kid can either make some crazy new invention we've never seen before to finish him off, or he can just take a bunch of stuff and leave because nobody can follow him at that point. And I know he would leave because of the next reason. Because Admiral Kizaru Borsalino was on his way. Now keep in mind, Kid has zero purpose in fighting against an admiral right now. Every pirate has no reason to fight an admiral. If you're trying to become king of the pirates, what's fighting the op finna do for you? He ain't got no poneglyph rubbing, there's no reason to stay here, so Kid's not gonna fight this man. And I know some people might say that Kid's super reckless, he might stay and fight him or whatever, but no, because Kid is also really smart. I'm pretty sure Kid knows that light and magnetism do not interact. More so than any admiral, including a Kainu, Borsalino is Kid's worst matchup because his magnetism does not work here. The moment he gets word that the light admiral is pulling up, hey, we're leaving. So he would take the mechs or whatever the things that he just made with him while everybody else is magnetized to the ground, and he will walk to the coast, probably upgrade his ship, and then sail away. So all in all, Kid would kind of just pull up, take a bunch of highly advanced tech, subdue CP9 with it, and he may take a Vegapunk with him as he sails away. The rest of them might, just kind of end up staying there to die. Because again, Kid is smart, and that smart comes with caution. If it's like, all right, so CP0 is here to kill you, what I look like bringing all of you with me, then now I'm a target. So actually thinking about it that way, there's like a 50-50 chance that Kid will either leave Vegapunk or he might take Vegapunk. If he takes him, he stands to learn a lot of things that Vegapunk knows, which will greatly increase his arsenal and the things that he can create, or he might choose to leave him so that he won't be targeted later on in the other things that he's doing in his life. Either way, I'm pretty sure if anything, he would take one Vegapunk, so the rest of them that stay would probably end up dead. But Lucci wouldn't be much of a factor because fighting Kid on the most advanced technologically made island in the world is just a bad idea. I think Killer is good enough to hold off Kaku for a time, but even it gets to a certain point where it wouldn't matter because Kid could just assign him to the ground too. The Seraphim aren't crazy big threats because for the short duration that some of them might be attacking us, we can just repel them away because they do have metallic components to them. But then once Sentomaru shows up, he'll just be like, hey, no, attack CP0, stop attacking this guy. And then we ain't gotta attack them no more. So the fight will never have to, come to its conclusion. Overall showcasing that if Kid went to Egghead Island, he would end up overall A-okay. Kizaru would pull up and be like, wait, we got word that Kid was here. What happened with that? Oh, he took Vegapunk and dipped. He also took like a whole bunch of highly advanced technology with him. So I wouldn't, recommend chasing after him because God knows what he just has on his ship now. He would more than likely configure his ship and make it the most advanced ship in all of One Piece. But sadly for Vegapunk, the rest of the satellites would more than likely all end up killed, and then Punk Records would end up commandeered by the world government. So overall, for the rest of the world, it would be pretty terrible. But Kid would have walked out fine, so yeah. Now with what we know about Egghead and how Law is as a person, what would have happened if Law went to Egghead instead of Luffy and company? So while everybody's picking their random direction, Law ends up picking the direction of Egghead this time. First things first, and I forgot to mention this with the Kid part, but there is a giant warm eddy that they run into before they get to Egghead. Without people like Luffy and Sanji with their insane observation haki, I don't think these guys would understand that it's Bonnie inside of this thing, so she would probably just die in both Kid and Law's case. So already, it's not starting off too great. Then shortly after that, Law and his company will have to deal with these giant mecha beasts that come out the ocean. However, we do know that Law can use his double fruit ability on his own ship, so he can get around these things super easily and just put his ship on the island. Now, this is the point where you got to keep in mind, when it comes to Law going into an island, he likes to make as little noise as possible. And things only ever go awry because, the Straw Hats or the Kid Pirates do whatever it is they want to do, and they cause a lot of ruckus. But with Law being on his own for the first time since Punk has it, he won't have to deal with them, so if he wants to stay under the radar, he'll be under the radar. However, Vegapunk being Vegapunk, I'm sure he'll be able to figure out that Law's on his island and he might try to interact with him in some way. And with the Kid interaction, some of you guys were saying that Vegapunk wouldn't go up to Kid and ask him to get him off the island. Because Kid's a reckless person that hurts people and Vegapunk wouldn't want to be associated with that. But two things you got to keep in mind. The first thing is that Kid only attacks people that make fun of his crew or make fun of Killer's laugh. which by the way is the exact same type of time Roger was on if you made fun of anybody in his crew. And then the second reason is he does still need to get off the island because the pirates are better than CP0, which are definitely going to kill him. Not to mention, in the case of both Kid and Law, he has seen in the newspaper that they both teamed up and allied with Luffy before. And which would you rather take your chances with, one of the allies of Monkey D. Luffy or CP0? Who are definitely here to kill you, by the way. Like, there's a 120% chance that they will kill you if they see you. He's definitely going to ask Kid and Law to get out of here. And one really important thing about Law that some people may have overlooked is that when it comes to the world of One Piece, he wants to learn his history. He wants to know why everything's been happening to him the way that it has. Whereas Luffy and Kid want to be king of the pirates, this is what Law's dream is. He wants to learn about his history. So I would definitely see a scenario where Vegapunk would come up to Law like, I've seen you in the paper, working with Straw Hat. Like, y'all on good terms? Law's gonna cap and say that no, they're not, but then Vegapunk's gonna be like, all right, anyway, can you take me off the Egghead? And Law's a very logical type of person. If he notices that Vegapunk has people coming to kill him, he's definitely going to say no. However, this is the one chance he has of getting his dream. So he would probably ask Vegapunk, like, if I get you out of here, could you tell me about the Will of D? Could you tell me about these poneglyphs and what's on them? Because I can't read them things. And I'm sure if Vegapunk says, yeah, I'll tell you all these things if you get me out of here, Law's definitely going to let him on. Which brings us to our first obstacle with the Law Pirates versus CP0 and S-Bear. Now, other than a few select people, Law's crew isn't anything special, minus Beppo, John Bart, Sachi, and Penguin. And if we're on land, because we're on the island of Egghead, Sanchi and Penguin can't do too much to help us here. But what we do know is that since Sentomaru is on Team Vegapunk, Law won't have to deal with the Seraphim, it'll just have to be CP0. So the question becomes, can Law and his crew take on Lucci, Kaku, and Stussy and get off the island? And I would say 100% yes, because there is absolutely nothing Lucci can do to beat Law. Due to the level of internal damage Law can do with his moves, not only do I think Lucci might just lose to a clean Gamma Knife, keep in mind, Kaido's only still up because he's built different, but when Dofi got hit by this, it shredded his internal organs. And a Logia can only regen so much. But he also has even stronger things like Shock Willy with his Awakening that he can even severely damage people like Big Mom and break all of her ribs. And if he can break all of Big Mom's ribs and teleport in and out to even get hits in on Kaido, Lucci may be fast, he may be strong, but there's absolutely nothing he can do to beat Law. After all, despite how fast he can move, Law's teleporting, and teleportation beats any speed. His Haki doesn't matter because Law's already shown that with no named attacks, he can just take out people that fully coat themselves in Haki. And while yes, I'm sure Lucci's Haki is infinitely better than Virgo's, I know it's nowhere near as good as Big Mom's. He's getting packed up pretty easily. And now, minor spoiler warning in 3, 2, 1. We also have Beppo that has the mini chopper rumble ball so he can turn Sulong form whenever he wants, even if there's no full moon. So even with Kaku and Lucci being awakened, I do not think they can really do anything to put down Beppo. Beppo he's a whole unit in this mode. Literally swatting away Blackbeard like a fly. So mainly between the two of them, I definitely see them having the capability of taking out CP0 and then leaving the island with haste. Because I know that he wouldn't want to deal with an admiral should one pull up to this island. But let's say we're still here for some amount of time and then Kizaru's able to show up. Who would win between Law and Kizaru? Nobody. Because Law is not going to fight this dude. This is a man that doesn't take unnecessary fights. If he needs to dip, he's going to leave. Where Kid and Luffy are fighting their way up to the rooftop and Wano and training along the way, Law just teleports to the poneglyph, then he teleports to the roof. He is not one for the middleman stuff, and I think he is skilled enough in combat and with this devil fruit that he can at least fight defensively to leave Egghead. Especially because his ship is a submarine, so once they get everybody to the ship, which he can just teleport everybody onto, they can just submerge and start dipping. But I'm not sure who the helmsman is on Law's crew, but they were able to whip through a whole bunch of light beams that Kizaru shot back in Marineford. And if they did it once, I'm sure they could do it again. So I can definitely see Law getting in, getting Vegapunk, dispatching CP0, and then getting out very easily. Just add much more difficulty if Kizaru pulls up and he has to fight his way to the shore or something. It's just out of all three of these guys, Law with his teleportation ability is the best suited fit to go up against Kizaru. Not to beat him, but to at least deal with him. If people like Hawkins and Drakes were at least showing the ability to perceive Kizaru moving at light speed back at Savodi Archipelago, then I am pretty sure Law currently can bare minimum do just that, and so long as he can see Kizaru, he can teleport himself out the way. And the same goes for anybody else on his crew or Vegapunk that's in his room. But I would say, being the type of person that he is, he's going to get the Vegapunk like, alright, so this is just the most essential thing, and we're getting out of here. He's not getting all the other satellites. So everybody other than Stella will probably be dead. And also, unlike Kid, who probably would have taken a lot of this stuff with him on the way out, Law would have barely touched or wrecked anything, so the world government would have all of this tech that Vegapunk left behind in pretty good condition. Meaning all the nonsense they were up to, they can still be up to. Where much like with Kid, this is going to leave the rest of the world in a pretty terrible spot. But keep in mind, it's really only Luffy that's going to help every passerby that he comes across. Kid and Law are not the types of people to try to help everybody with that. So in this arc, all the other satellites are going to die, Bonnie's going to be dead, one Vegapunk will probably be saved, the original, but the world government ends up commandeering Punk records. So, overall, this would end up in the bad timeline area. So long story short, when it comes to Kid or Law at Egghead, they both have a shorter and somewhat easier time than Luffy, mainly because the Straw Hats got to Egghead the same way to get to any other island, in a very chaotic fashion. They were split up. That was the only reason why they were on this island for so long, because everybody was all over the place doing completely different things. And then they just like to touch stuff, so everybody ended up putting on these outfits, which gave them the boots that Vegapunk could control and bring them to his lab. This is not happening with Law or Kid. They're not putting on no new outfits. They just getting in, they getting out. And while this is good for them in the short term, it's bad for the rest of the world in the long term.